Welcome to Watch Me Work mini holiday series. My name is Cheryl. I'm a sweets business owner here in Atlanta, Georgia. The name of my company is called Unforgettables, where we specialize in customized cakes and treats. I am so happy that you tuned in to join us for episode 2. I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I hope you enjoyed the sparkling cranberry white chocolate cake, and I hope you had fun making it. Today, we are going to make something new, fun, and out of our comfort zone. Remember, that's what the holiday series is all about, having fun while making fall desserts and making them with friends and family, and also being creative. So today, I think you're going to like it. It's not really a dessert. It's more of a fall treat because you can have it for breakfast, lunch, dessert, any time of the day. So today, the fall treat that we will be making is called homemade apple pie turnovers drizzled with salted caramel sauce. I know you're drooling because that sounds so good, and it is so good. And guess what? It's quick, and that's what we're all about. It's homemade and it's quick, so you'll be able to brag about you did a homemade treat that took under an hour, okay? The whole process is under an hour. So what I need you to do is preheat your oven to 400 degrees. And I'm going to let you know with the apple turnovers, the recipe that we're going to use today is going to make 8 apple turnovers. So this is going to be the perfect holiday treat that you can make for your upcoming Christmas party, whether it's at your job or at your home. It's going to be perfect because you don't have to use a mixer. You don't have to use a fork or a spoon. It's grab and go. That's what we're all about, convenience. So let's get ready, and we're going to start with 2 Granny Smith apples. That's all you'll need. You'll need to peel, and you'll need to dice very finely, okay? So once you have all the skin off of the apples, you'll dice them very finely, and then we're going to move over to the stove, okay? So if you have a peeler, that's going to work perfect because you're going to have to take the skin off of the apples. And then once you have the skin off of the apples, we're going to dice them up and chop them up. Now, you don't have to use Granny Smith apples, actually. You can actually use a variety of apples. Say if you wanted to use 1 Granny Smith and 1 Honeycrisp apple, or if you wanted to use Gala apples. Doesn't have to be Granny Smith, but I love Granny Smith apples. Okay, so we're almost done here with getting the skin off. Then once we get all the skin off, we are going to slice it. Make sure we get all the apple off, and then we'll slice a little more. Okay, since we'll be cooking these, you'll want to make sure they're thinly sliced because you want to make sure the apples cook all the way through. Okay. All right, so now we are about to cook the filling. So we're at the stove, and what you want to make sure you do is place your stove on medium heat, and you're going to add your apples. So again, make sure they're thinly sliced. And this should be 2 peeled apples. Then you're gonna add your cornstarch, your sugar, your vanilla. So it should be 1 teaspoon of cornstarch, and then you're gonna take a 1/2 cup of sugar, next you're gonna take 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and my favorite, we're gonna take a 1/2 teaspoon of apple pie spice. Last, we're gonna add in 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Then we're gonna mix this up. Make sure you get all the seasoning in. So we're gonna stir for about 5 minutes. So you're just gonna have the apples cook. This smells so good. And it looks so pretty. Making some homemade apple pie filling. All right, so we're gonna let this cook for about 5 minutes. Again, make sure you continue to stir. Make sure it's not sticking to the pan. Now we're going to switch to low heat, and we're gonna have the apples simmer for about 5 minutes. So now you can tell the texture is very soft. So we're turning it down to low, and we're gonna let them simmer for another 5 minutes. Once they are complete simmering, we're gonna move them from the heat and allow them to cool. So now we have our nicely simmered apple pie filling. So what we're gonna do now is take this off of the eye, and we're gonna let it cool for 20 minutes. And here comes the fun part, guys. So we're gonna make the pastry now. So you should have you should have 2 cookie sheets lined with parchment paper, or either you can use a silicone mat. You're gonna use your puff pastry sheets, and they should be thawed. You don't want to use any frozen sheets because it's not gonna work. And then you're gonna have 1 egg beaten, and then we need our apple pie filling. And that's pretty much it. All we're gonna need, and you're gonna need a brush for your egg to brush on top of the pastry. So once you take your pastry sheet out of the box, you're gonna unfold it. Again, make sure it's thawed. And you can either use a knife or you can use a cutter. I have a fancy wheel cutter, but you don't have to use this. Make sure your countertop is lightly floured because you don't want the pastry sheet to stick to the counter. So you're going to cut it down the middle, and you're going to slice this into 4s. There's actually 2 pastry sheets that are in the box, so that will make your 8 turnovers. So we're cutting into 4s. Then we're going to place the apple pie filling in the middle of the pastry sheet. Now you're gonna notice that once we fold the pastry sheet, you're gonna have some of the filling to leak out. Don't worry though, that's gonna happen. We're gonna place 2 to 3 spoonfuls in the middle. Make sure your apples are nice and cool. I would start with just 2 spoonfuls, and then if you have more left, you can go back and add them to the pastry. If any of the juices leak out, it's totally fine. That's gonna happen, and it's gonna happen regardless, because once they start cooking, some of the juices are gonna bubble up, so no problem. And then to seal the corners of the pastry puffs, you're gonna take a fork and just mash down all the way around of the edges, and you're gonna do that on all 4. You're gonna take that brush that we talked about and the egg, the slightly beaten egg, you're gonna take that and you're gonna put the wash on top of each pastry. So you're just gonna brush it over. Now to make sure those apples are cooked all the way while they're in the oven, we're gonna cut 3 little holes on the top of each turnover. Okay. So just grab a knife and just make 3 little incisions on the top. These babies are ready for the oven. Now remember, each pastry sheet makes 4 turnovers. So you're gonna have 2 pans of 4 turnovers in the oven. And what you're gonna do, you're gonna bake them for 20 minutes. Halfway through, you're gonna rotate the pan, all right? So we have come to the very end, and that is the homemade salted caramel sauce. So what you're gonna need to do is take a saucepan, and the ingredients that you're gonna need: 1 cup of sugar, 6 tablespoons of butter, salted butter. Make sure you cut in 6 tablespoons, so 1 tablespoon. And then you're gonna have a 1/2 cup of heavy cream and 1 teaspoon of salt. So what we're gonna do first is add the sugar to the saucepan. And what you're gonna need is either a rubber spatula or either a wooden spoon. And you wanna make sure the saucepan is over medium heat. Now, you're gonna make sure that you stay by the stove. You don't wanna leave the stove while this sugar is cooking. You're gonna have to continuously stir the sugar, because what's gonna happen if you don't, your sugar is going to burn and it's not going to look good nor smell good. So you're going to continuously stir the sugar, and what you're going to notice is clumps are going to form as the sugar heats, and that's okay, because that's what's supposed to happen. And this process is probably going to take about 5 minutes. Now you see that little brown little dot right there? You see how it's turning brown? That's what it's gonna do once it starts to heat. And you see it's clumping up. So you just wanna make sure you continuously stir so that sugar doesn't burn. Okay, so now we are almost there. As you can see, the sugar is almost 100% at its liquid form. We probably have maybe another minute before we can add the sugar in. Make sure when you add the when you add the butter in, make sure when you add the butter in, you add 1 teaspoon at a time and you drop it in slowly. You're going to be adding butter to hot sugar, so you want to be careful. Magic! We're almost there. So you can go ahead and get your butter ready. Again, your butter should already be sliced by the tablespoon, okay? Alright. Add in the butter. Remember, it's going to start to boil. Ooh, melted. And you want to immediately start stirring. And it's going to continue to boil, but you want to make sure that butter melts all the way. So it's going to continue to bubble. So now it's forming the caramel. Now this part right here is going to take about 2 to 3 minutes until the butter completely melts in. Now if you find that your butter is not melting, you can always take a whisk and mix it together. You want to make sure now that you have your heavy cream prepared. And you want to have 1/2 cup of heavy cream. Now again with this one, once you add it to the pan, it's going to start to boil. And because the heavy cream is colder than the caramel, it's going to create more of a boil. So slowly add it in. Alright. And stir. You don't want it to stick to the bottom of the pan, so make sure you continue to stir. Now this is the part where it's going to start to thicken. So you're going to allow this to boil for 1 minute. Then after that, you're going to remove it from the stove and you're going to add in a teaspoon of the salt. And then you're going to let it cool. But shortly after you add the salt and it cools, you can drizzle it on the turnovers. So we're going to let this boil for just a few more seconds, then take it off and add our salt and then mix it again. You guys are going to be so proud of yourselves making homemade caramel. Now, if you are short on time, you can also buy a bottle of caramel, but why would you buy a bottle of caramel when this process is so easy? So go ahead and turn off the stove, set the caramel to the side, grab your salt, add it in, and then mix again. Now once you mix that, just let it sit for a while. Alright, now you're going to notice once you allow it to sit, it's going to thicken even more. But to loosen up the caramel, all you'll have to do is pop it in the microwave and it'll loosen up. You can actually make your caramel days in advance. what you'll need to do is just make sure you put it in an airtight container and put it in the refrigerator. You can leave it out for a day at max, but if you're going to use it for a week or so, you want to make sure you store it in the refrigerator. Now look at our beautiful brown apple pie turnovers. Didn't they turn out beautiful? And they smell so good. So now that they have cooled and we have our caramel over here, everything just turned out so beautiful. So what you're gonna do now, you can decorate your turnovers however you would like, but what we're gonna do is we're actually just gonna take a little caramel and we're just gonna drizzle it over each turnover. And it may get a little messy. So just take your whisk and just decorate it just like that. You may have to warm up your caramel a little more, just depending on how thick you would like. Look at there. Masterpiece. So we have our homemade apple pie turnovers with salted caramel sauce. We're gonna get a closer look. Awesome! Did you guys have fun? I know I did. Now you can brag and say you know how to make homemade apple pie filling, and you have made some homemade apple pie turnovers drizzled with caramel, salted caramel sauce. So we're gonna take a bite into this and see if it's as good as it looks. I feel a dance coming on. It is so good. It's buttery, it's warm. The apple filling has just the right touch of cinnamon and it's not too moist. I was afraid that it would be too much juice, but it's just right. So this is a must for your upcoming holiday parties. Okay, take it to the job, take it to your husband's job, your wife's job, party, take it everywhere. It's so easy. Remember, the recipe will be on my website, www.unforgettableatl.com, under Gallery Holiday Recipes. I will also put this recipe in the comments below. So print it out. I want to see how it turns out as well. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 2 of Watch Me Work, and we will see you next week for our final episode. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be so much fun. You guys have a great evening. Stay sweet.
You like mom's apple pie?